All right, I hope everyone is doing well. Today we are going to go through general SOH CAH TOA rules. Remember, SOH CAH TOA is sine, that's what the S stands for, is opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the tangent is the opposite over adjacent. You can review that back on the videos that were presented to you last week. So we say this is SOH CAH TOA as an acronym to help us remember that. Now, we're going to go through a couple problems here where we can find these ratios of opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, and opposite over adjacent, which individually represent sine, cosine, and tangent. We will do this in reference to a particular angle. In this first problem, the angle that we're going to look at is right here, and that is the Greek letter theta, which is often used to represent an angle measure in math. So the first one we're looking for is the sine of theta, and in order to be able to do that, what we will do is label the triangle in reference to opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So in reference to this angle, the 12 is opposite, it is across. So I'm going to just put OPP there for opposite. The hypotenuse is always the longest side of the right triangle. It's always across from the right angle. So we can label that hypotenuse. And then that leaves 5 as the adjacent. The adjacent side will be a leg that forms one of the sides of the angle that you are referring to. Okay? So all we have to do now is just utilize our acronym to help us put in those ratios. So the sine is equivalent to opposite over hypotenuse over h. So the opposite is 12. The hypotenuse is 13, so the sine would be 12 over 13. The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so a over h, so adjacent over hypotenuse would be 5 over 13. And the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent, so o over a, opposite over adjacent, that would be 12 over 5. Now, none of these fractions can be reduced, so we're good to go. Those are our answers. So on any activity that you have to do, you're just going to be looking for a ratio there. For the most part, we'll leave them as fractions. You could be asked to round them to a particular decimal place, so just make sure you read the directions and write out the answer the way it is desired. If we look at this bottom example quickly, we're just looking for both the cosine of angle W and angle Y. So this can be a little bit more tricky if we do W first. In reference to angle W, you'll notice there's no angle measure inside here. We're just utilizing the capital letter to represent the angle measure. That's just one of the vertices of the triangle. But we're going to be looking for the cosine of W. We know cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So in reference to angle W, the hypotenuse is the easy one across from the right angle. That never changes, so that's the hypotenuse. And then the adjacent side is this 6. Okay, the adjacent side will be one of the sides that forms the angle that you're looking at, and it'll be a leg. Okay, so this is the adjacent. So our cosine of angle W, adjacent over hypotenuse, would be 6 over 10. And 6 over 10 can reduce to 3 over 5. All right. And I will show you how to reduce fractions on both calculator and decimals here in a second. Now, if we wanted to find the cosine of y, this is going to change up a little bit. So now if I'm referring to angle y, the hypotenuse is still 10, all right, but this 6 is in reference to angle y is actually opposite. The adjacent side in reference to angle y is 8, okay? So this is going to change up for us here. This is the adjacent side in reference to angle y. This is the hypotenuse of the right triangle. So the cosine of y will be 8 over 10, and 8 over 10 reduces to 4 over 5. All right. Now, in regards to reducing fractions on your graphing calculator, if you have one, if I had something like 6 over 10, I can just put in 6 divided by 10. All you got to do is hit the math key, and so math, enter, enter to get that to a reduced fraction. All right. In order to be able to do something like that on Desmos, here I'll get that up really quickly. Sorry, my tablet just powered down. Okay, so on Desmos, you go to www.desmos.com. All right. I can just put in a fraction, so let's just say I go 8 divided by 10. Okay, you can see it shows as 0.8 right there. If you want to get it as a reduced fraction, just hit that little key right here, the little fraction key, and you can see it reduces down to 4/5. Good luck on the assignment. Let me know if you have any questions. Stay well.